Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, however you identify, welcome to Roll for Crit's Top 20 Games of All Time, Part 2, which means it's time for our top 10 games of all time. It's not a long series, we're getting right to the point. If you missed it, we just recently did our top 20 through 11 in a separate video, so you might want to go watch that first to get a little bit of the preamble, understand where our heads are at going into these lists. But just to reiterate, these are some of our favorite games of all time. We are never sure about which one's on our list, and we're going to rethink it constantly as time goes on.
I'm always rethinking and terrified.
But for now, that's what it is. Now, we last left off with your number 11, and we're going to begin this week with your number 10.
That is correct. So, I ended off with a very heavy, large game of Arkham Horror 2nd Edition.
That's a big one.
But now, in 10, I have Chronicles of Crime from Lucky Duck Games. I love story games and detective games, and this does it in a really cool way with using your phone to scan cards, look around into the environment to try to see clues. And there are little bugs here and there about it, like when you scan certain things accidentally in advance or not, or some little bit of confusion. But overall, it's just such a fun system and story. And I think they actually do their DLC relatively well.
Yeah, the way that the game incorporates an app, and even with like the virtual reality you get to use with your phone if you want to, they do some really fun, exciting things with that. That it's a lot like a little bit, some ways like a point and click adventure game. You know, the dialogue with people and just exploring mysteries. What's not to love? All right, so now it's back to me for my number 10. Really exciting, breaking into the top 10 here. Mine is a game that...
A game?
That's right, the surprise. I like to call it, because it's the title, Chaosmos. That's right, breaking into my number 10, I think for the first time. I don't think it was in my last list. This is...
I'm surprised.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. My memory's faulty.
So is mine.
This is a game that we just recently did a full review for, as well as a preview for its new expansion that was on Kickstarter. It's a sci-fi deduction game. Players are different aliens going to different planets trying to find one card, the Ovoid. It's in one of a hidden envelope on a planet, or perhaps in someone's hand already. And if you have it when the game ends, you win the game. This really just fits all of the boxes. It checks them all off for me that I love. You have hidden information and deduction. The science fiction theme is very creative. Some of the aliens' powers are funny and fun. You get to travel around and fight each other, but it doesn't feel as combat intensive or aggressive as some other games do to me. It's everything that I love, and it's also another under the radar indie game that you should look for.
Like Chaosmos, and if you watch our previous video, at 20 for me, Scribes Arena, or games that they have some sharp corners here and there, but I haven't seen like anything do that makes it feel similar. This one does feel a bit like Scribes Arena is Hangman.
Right.
This doesn't have that word I can throw onto it.
Right. It's certainly unique. Yeah, so...
I guess hot potato?
A little bit of
reverse?
Reverse hot potato. Boy, they should add that to the Board Game Geek mechanics list. So check out Chaosmos. Watch our review if you haven't. The one you should get familiar with.
All right, so number 9.
Number 9 now, into the single digits. That is going to be, you referenced detective games and your love of them. And the one that I chose to put on this list to represent that genre, that area, is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And for me, I think for most people, this really is the grandfather of that style of game. In fact, I don't feel like even until really just recently, with things like Chronicles of Crime, have other companies tried to simulate that. But essentially, you're reading through a book, you're traveling around to different places, but all of it really takes place not in the game, but in your own notes, in your own head, discussing with your partners as to how do we solve these crimes, where do we go next, what do we do? And it's just an experience now like other things, but at the time, unlike anything I had ever had. And I still think, even compared to the other games that I've played in this genre that I have liked, that it has done its, with some exceptions, its stories and the way it's written and laid out, I have enjoyed the most.
I completely agree with all the things you said. In fact, one thing, a similar game, Mythos Tales, I've liked, but that was by a different publisher and different company. But I think it just, unfortunately, some issues and the problem with those games is you have to do a lot of double checking.
Right. So. I do love Mythos Tales too, so I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, but so if you like that genre, and if you can find that game too, definitely look for that. Now that's my 9, so now we're back to you for your 9.
That is correct.
Yeah, we know how to do it.
My number 9 I wish it was at 7, but it's at 9 because it's the 7th continent. This game is all about exploring this island. You're there because you were cursed and you're trying to get rid of the curse. You flip these card map tiles, but they connect together to make this beautiful image. And you have resources, but you may start to starve, but you can easily gain and hunt food, so it's not too hard to explore the area. Not indefinitely, but you don't feel nearly as timed as some other games. And I just love that. It's so big. There's different scenarios. I mean, they just came out with the one, now you can go up into the sky on an airship or go underneath on this boat. It's just such a fun game. I'm sad that you won't be able to get everything now, but they are making a retail version that's a bit lighter, and you'll still be able to get that most of the experience that the game has to offer.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that. Definitely go check out that. I think they're calling it the Classic Edition or something at retail stores, a little cheaper. It's such a great exploration game.
Yeah, also, that was a fun one to sleeve everything up for.
Oh yeah, and you want to too, because you do.
No, you shuffle, because of the way you work, your deck is your life, so you'll be adding cards from your discard back into it to when you eat. So I felt very happy I got the sleeves for that after the second run.
Yeah, so much fun playing that game solo too. Great, really robust solo mode.
No, and what's fun I did with that solo mode, because it has a save system too, because you will have to save. Like, I think the shortest campaign's 15 hours or something, they say. But being able to save is always so great in a game, because then you can make a long game and not feel bad that you can't do it in one sitting. Though it's also fun if you do solo, you can just, if you don't need the table space, you just leave it on the table and you walk away. I did that for Arkham too, but this one is, I think, actually better at that.
Doesn't work if you have cats.
No, I don't. I have dogs. So as long as it's this above this high off the table, I'm good.
All right, what's next?
All right, so I'm sticking with the island theme. And this game I know will eventually be on your list. But I'm going to say it anyway. Robinson Crusoe. I think if you like the 7th continent, you got to get Robinson Crusoe too. It's a shorter version of it. You know, it's not going to take 15 hours. But it has this worker placement and this discussions. You have like this, you can have an ability, but you also have a con. And you're hunting and deciding the different scenarios. It's just such a fun game to explore. You're getting so much for it in that game and what the line has to offer.
Yeah, there's all those expansions that have campaigns in them, like mini campaigns. Yeah, there's a ton. And that's, another, they are kind of similar. They're both about survival.
Yes.
But Robinson Crusoe definitely, I think, actually works pretty well solo too, but really with the co-op togetherness.
No, I mean,
like that.
I'd like that co-op more for that. And but the reason I put it ahead is I think in terms of, like, I love having getting 7th continent, but Robinson Crusoe isn't something you have to worry about because you missed the Kickstarter. Isn't something you're like, do I have 15 hours to do? It's like, hey, game night. Robinson Crusoe? Okay, cool, let's do it.
It's out there, yeah. It's a little more compact. All right, so that was your number 6, 8, 7?
No, that
9,
was
12,
my 8.
14?
8.
Right.
Great.
My number 8. Now, last episode, there were a couple games on my list, and at what point, if you keep saying this is a genre I don't normally like, does it just become a genre I like? I'm not sure. But my number 8 is, right? 8?
Yes, we're on 8.
Yeah, my number 8 is Root, which is an area control combat game, highly competitive. But what makes it stand out to me as something really special is, of course, the fact that all of your factions are asymmetrical, highly asymmetrical. So sometimes you really have completely different goals. You have a whole different board. The way that you play your turns is going to be totally different. So there's definitely a bit of a barrier to entry. But once you get over that hump and you figure out how it plays and how other factions are playing, I think it's magical the way that they got these, as I said, totally different factions to play off of each other in very fun ways, and all somehow comes together as a satisfying, complete experience.
Right.
And especially now they're adding, of course, they have new factions. Some new ones just got released recently. We haven't had the chance to try it, but I'm really excited to dig into that.
Oh no, I mean,
love Root.
The art is beautiful, components are beautiful, mechanics are fun. I mean, one of the challenges, even if you do play it once, you got to play it again. You have to relearn the game because you're learning a whole new system. But that also means you're almost playing a whole new game. you're going to have such a fun time each time you take it to the table.
Yeah, bang for your buck with Root, absolutely.
Do they have bucks in there?
Not yet. Maybe in the future, however. All right, so Root's my number 8. Now, my number 7 is a big one. It's Legendary, a Marvel deck building game. Now, I don't recall exactly where this was on my list for the last time we did this. I suspect it might have been a little bit higher, but this time it's at number 7. It's on the shelf behind us. It's a game we talk about all the time. It's a classic, pretty straightforward deck building game where you play together as a team of Marvel heroes against Marvel villains. And it really was my introduction, I think, to deck building. Maybe Dominion, I know that came first in the real world, but...
No, I don't think we played Dominion before that.
I think Legendary was number 1 in our hearts. And of course, Marvel, one of my favorite themes. I really love seeing the comic book characters and the different ways that they work them into the themes and how their powers work separately. So many expansions, so much variation. Every time you play, it's different. It scratches a great itch for, I know, both of us as a game, as it could be a filler game if nobody's around or just the two of us. It's a great solo game too. It's pretty good co-op with more players. Sometimes you can make it competitive. Like there's so many things you can tweak and that's why I love it.
There have been many a game nights in our early years when we didn't have nearly as big as a collection and weren't nearly as stressed out, where game night would end, but you and I would play a game of Legendary.
It's the only game that I have committed to really sleeving everything and getting all the expansions as they come out. There aren't any games. Yeah, no other games I really am willing to do that for to this extent. So that's a big deal for me. That was my number 7.
Yeah.
So now it's you.
So my number 7. Sort of connects to when I was joking earlier when you said Big Trouble in Little China. It's not that, but it is from Everything Epic Games. It's Secrets of the Lost Tomb. This game is you're part of this secret organization trying to protect all these weird artifacts, and there's a green comet in the sky that is causing some trouble. You're going to choose a scenario, enter this temple where there's all this weird stuff going on, and you have to collect puzzle pieces to explore. Pretty much it has... Do you like exploring walk around betrayal? Great. You're going to have that without the stupid switching trader phase when things are overpowered one way or another. It's got, in terms of that heavy themed games, it's like at the top there. The rooms are really cool. You can find weird stuff in there. Dying to the sandworm room has been always great. And the fact that they interlock is really nice, not sliding by each other. I just got the new space version of the Lost Station, so I can't comment on that yet, but I think I do, just on a thematic guess, like the temple more. I love that Indiana Jones feel too. It just, in terms of that heavy cooperative game and exploring, I've loved it.
Yeah, I'll echo what you said. It's what if Betrayal at House on the Hill was better? And just has a really cool theme, like you said. There's a lot of really crazy stuff. All right, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is my first entry into deck building game, and that's the DC comic deck building game. I don't like the Dominion style of laying out piles, though I will say with Aeon's End that has maybe pushed me back. But I like that random lineup. It is just a deck building game. And I like the deck building mechanics, so this is one that I really enjoy. I like the way they've also added some things and switched some things up. So in terms of a pure deck building mechanic, which is one of my favorite mechanics, this game is the one I enjoy doing, and probably the one I'll always be willing to have around to hit the table.
Yeah, I think that's one of the few games. It might be like the most stark difference of opinion between the two of us on a game. Not that I hate it at all, but it's certainly
This is your Cyclades.
Yeah, I guess. To me, it's just like, yeah, like you said, it's deck building. Yeah, it's fine. But I get it. It was your entry point, and of course, there's so many expansions and stuff.
And like I said, because it's like it feels more like a party game to me at this point. For the simple mechanic of deck building, it's the one I tend to enjoy playing with. Well, not with you because you don't like it, but with other people the most.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to force it on you.
Yeah, I know. I did really like a Rebirth. There's something going for it.
So we're going. I'm throwing it back to you now.
Oh yeah, you did too?
Yeah, because that was right after Secrets.
Okay, I was asleep. All right, my number 6 is a big one. Look, this time I mean it. They're all going to be big. They're going to get bigger and bigger. My number 6 is Firefly the game. I think it's called Firefly the game. It is based on the Firefly TV series, which is one of my all-time favorite television shows, and it is a big old sprawling exploration game in which you have a ship, you're hiring crew members, you're taking on jobs, and the thing that I truly love about the game is this feeling of exploration, and even more so than, like, usually when I play, I don't really care about what my opponents are doing. Sometimes I should, but it's almost like it has a solo mode too, and in a sense, it feels almost like a video game in the way that I just like living this story of exploring and having this adventure. And even though they've added expansions that have gone back, and for people who want more player interaction, they've added all kinds of extra stuff in there. But even with just that core game, I always loved it, love the theme. I know it takes a very long time to play, but for me, it's worth it. So that is my number 6. Now it gets real serious because we're going into the top 5 here. And
I have to make sure my lineup is correct.
My number 5, unfortunately, also isn't my number 7, but it's the 7th continent. Yeah, that's my number 5. I truly love that game. Again, I think something that often comes up when I talk about some of my favorite games is the word exploration, and that's what the 7th continent is all about. We've compared it to Myst or Secret of Monkey Island, which are some of my favorite genres of computer games. The type of thing where you are exploring and having an adventure, and you never know what's going to happen, and depending on your choice, there's so many possible outcomes. And particularly, this is a game where, like I said, we were talking about the solo mode. I've only experienced this in the solo mode, and I love that. I really enjoyed sitting down by myself and feeling like this is my journey, and I can, like you said, leave it out for a while, come back to it. It's great.
I won't argue with you on your placement. I mean,
don't do it.
Like I said, we said, I think I don't think we said in this one, but in our 1120, it's almost like I'd rather have a tier system, because sometimes these games, that game did bring a lot, and it just stinks, but at least there is somewhat of a version for retail out there.
Yeah, I'm glad that that's there.
So my number 5 is Cthulhu Wars from Sandy Petersen. In terms of when I first played this, I've had that feeling before of being so mind struck of how crazy this is. In terms of the area you control, and the way that each faction felt so different was just so cool. The miniatures are really popping, and then getting expansion with different maps, adding the modular monsters. Everything about this I've had is so much fun. And I also mentioned the fact that once you get this, pretty much any other game, whether it's Arkham Horror, D&D theme with a Lovecraft theme on top, you're going to have minis for it.
Oh yeah, you will have minis, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Cthulhu Wars is a super well done, very fun area control combat game. I just wish it wasn't so big and long and easier to get people to play with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is always a thing, but
once you do it, yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, that's on to you, number 4.
My number 4 is the legendary Marvel deck building game. While I love the DC deck building game for being a pure, just straight, simple deck building game, I think Legendary brought things to the top that I would like without adding a whole other crazy mechanics in terms of making it also an area control or something like this. I like most of the Legendary games. I think some aren't as good. I don't think the 007 one is that good. I'm going to say right here.
You said it.
But
calling you out, 007.
I chose the Marvel one over, let's say, Alien, which I really do love the theme, especially with the expansions. I think because this was built for Marvel as the core, it works better with the hero, in particular with the hero style system. Each character gets its time. It gets a whole little deck. So they really each get the shine of what they do and stuff. So yeah. I just think in terms of a deck building system, it's just done everything so right. Even if some of their spin-offs haven't been as great.
I definitely wouldn't begrudge anyone, and even sometimes I think I myself feel this way, to think that the encounter system really did improve on the original one.
No, nothing against. I do really love Alien Encounters too.
I wish they would come out with an Encounters, like an adaptation, so you could play the Marvel in an Encounters format. They should do that.
Well,
I don't know how hard it would be.
You can just mix.
You could just do it, yeah. I guess that's true, but specifically tailored for it. Okay, so that's our number 4. All right, here it is, boys. Number 4, and girls, and everyone in between, as I said at the top. My number 4, and I mean, I'm going to say right now, I think my top 4 is it's probably pretty predictable. I haven't changed that much. My number 4 is Cosmic Encounter. Classic sci-fi negotiation style game from now Fantasy Flight, in which players have different alien races, and you have wildly different powers. And using those powers, you're trying to combat with other players, sometimes make deals, form alliances, and get enough ships on their planets to win. I think the fact that this game has been around since the 70s and is still very popular speaks to how great it is. And the thing that makes me really enjoy it, two things. One, I do love the negotiation social aspect of it, but I think that's really complemented and highlighted by how many crazy different aliens there are. Every time you play, it can be a totally different experience, and those will inform your playstyle so that, in my opinion, it doesn't just come down to, oh, you're my friend that in real life, so let's team up. There's a lot of more interesting interplay, and because of those powers, you can't predict anything. You never know what's going to happen.
You're really happy about that because no one's actually your friend in real life.
I know, I
mean, if you like if the social aspect that comes into a game is really what you're going for, you got to get Cosmic Encounter. I mean, I knew that was going to be on your top 10. If I was a betting man, if list of games, that's definitely one of them.
All right, well, number 3, I think you could bet on this one as well. My number 3 is The Resistance. And I'm just saying The Resistance, but if you want to put in Avalon, whatever spin-offs they have, I think at this point with expansions...
They're similar enough.
With expansions, you can kind of encompass all of them together now. This is a hit-and-roll social deduction game, and for me, it was one of my first and still is, I think, the ultimate in this genre. You are going on missions, there are some hidden traitors, you're trying to find them out before you move on. It's a simple game at first, but as you go on with expansions and different little add-ons and variants that you can play with, it can get deeper, and especially if you play with the same people or with a new group, I think there can be really fun dynamics that shift and evolve as you go.
I've done that. I went to a convention once and played it with completely different people, and it was a very odd experience going to our table.
It's wild.
I think Concept was in the last list. I think Concept replaced Resistance in terms of the game we play in between games. So they do the exact opposite thing.
Yes, it does require a larger group, and I think we used to get bigger groups to play this more often, unfortunately. But I will always love it, and I love that it does, it does the thing that a lot of social deduction games do, but I feel like it was really the first where nobody is ever eliminated, which is really nice. And I just love sneaking. I love trying to find sneaks, and I love sneaking.
All right. My number 3. Honestly, with these top 3, I had such a hard time. But my number 3 goes to Magic the Gathering. This card game I have been playing since I first lived in California, back in, honestly, I got Sliver Queen. I still have that card. Of all the games on this list, emotionally speaking, Magic is the king there. I mean, my brother who's moved away, I still talk to him about Magic all the time, the new sets, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. As a system, I have a lot of problems with the CCG and what they're doing and stuff, but the game itself is just pinnacle. There's a reason why no other trading card game, I feel, in my mind, has come close to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. You cannot argue against Magic. It is the game for trading card games, really, even in general. Like, you go into any comic store, any game store, you look at a shelf anywhere.
Some of them, that's why they're still afloat.
Even people who aren't gamers, I bet a lot of people, there's a good chance somewhere in your house you've got some Magic cards floating around.
And there's something about when any property, when you're the kind of person, because in Magic, you're like, oh, I'm an Azurius player because I do control. Like when you sort of connect, like saying I'm a Gryffindor or something. When something has such.
Thanks for bringing it down to my level.
Well, it was the first property I thought that has different groups for you, and it means a lot to me. One of the reasons it finally came down to 3 was because of how expensive it is to join in stuff and where do you join in. But it has all the different modes. So if we can get past those hurdles, you're going to have an amazing game.
It's a classic.
And my number 2, once again, remember, I had a really hard time, especially with these top 3, I think it was my number 1 from my last list, was the Arkham Horror card game. I love these card games and being able to customize and build and really become that pinnacle of power and just how do you get through this. But the Arkham card game, because it's cooperative, isn't about beating an opponent. It's about dealing with this crazy system, and then this throws on a story on top of it, which I've already mentioned how I love heavy theme and story. So I just have so much fun with this. You can do it solo or playing with other people is still a lot of fun. I mean, I love the Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, but in terms of actually feeling like I'm a part of the world, I think this just does it better.
Yeah, I think that definitely it's able, because it's all card-based, I think it is able to bring that theme more heavily than the board game equivalents, which require you to have like expansions and big pieces and stuff like that. There, you can make a train that looks like a train.
No, I mean, the fact that they had some, like we have the train museum, each one can play so differently. And for me, at least, one of the things that's also a little bit nice, even though I'm the kind of guy who just gets everything, unlike some of the other ones, you can just decide once you get the base, you could be like, you know what? That's the dunnage cycle, not my thing. I'm going to avoid that. I'm just going to focus on that cycle. So you can be a bit more picky with the story. So you can get whatever book series you want from that you could go the whole thing. And yes, they come with investigator cards you maybe want. But really, if you're just like, I just want that one dunnage pack, you could proxy it. This is a cooperative game, because you just want to dive straight into the circle undone,
I think it also is a little bit friendlier and more accessible.
Define friendly.
not to your players when you're playing, but accessible in the sense that you upgrade your decks if you're playing the campaign as you go,
which
little
really
by little.
feels cool too, because I have played the other ones like Lord of the Rings, which is another, but I feel like this is my deck.
Right.
If I buy a pack of cards, maybe I'll change it, which is nice and all. I mean, I actually like that more in Magic because I like playing Commander when I have my deck and don't have to change it. But this, because you play through those little chapters, you're like, you level up, you feel cool. Or when you do that thing that maybe was a little harder, like kill a monster or find the rare item, you get some extra experience. You feel really rewarded.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now you're number 2. Mm-hmm. You're right? You're number.
That was my number 2.
Oh, that was your number 2?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'm on my number 2?
Yeah, we're on your number 2, my friend.
Oh, yeah. This is rough. All right. My number 2 is another one that you already bet on. It's Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island.
Oh, I forgot to say the subtitle.
Yeah, it's got a subtitle. Well, we put it on the screen. It's fine. Yes, this is one of my favorite co-op games ever. Also came into my life relatively early. It's really was my introduction and began my great appreciation of Portal games and designer Ignacy Cevicek. It's a really great one. It's challenging. You're gonna be defeated. You're gonna feel bad sometimes when you play this cooperatively. You have to make hard choices. Do we commit to one thing or do we try to do all kinds of things? But it has so much in it. You can explore, you can hunt, you can build things, players get sick. It really is, again, an example of, I think my favorite types of games, what they do is marry the theme to the mechanics. I often find that the best thing. And this feels like a heavy Euro-style game, but incredibly thematic with all these different elements. And yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I mean, like I said, even though I like the exploring of some of the content and feeling, I felt Robinson just does it in a much tighter method. Sure, you're not going to see this huge island in like that, but the exploring is interesting. Then you're talking about like, okay, we need a shelter. We can either go there, maybe find the token that comes with natural shelter, or we can just hunker down here. Let's see if we can build a roof and do this. And like, oh, we got a big animal. All right, great. That gives us a lot more than we were expecting. And I mean,
yeah. When you get those moments of triumph in the midst of the storms and things,
and just
great.
How each scenario changes that too. Like You might not be playing one when weather's that bad. Then you could be playing the one with the giant hurricane.
Yeah, they will really change things up. So Robinson Crusoe is my number 2. And now I will be the first to give you my number 1 game of all time as of now. And once again, it is Battlestar Galactica, the board game. And I apologize if you've ever heard me on the podcast or on this show talking about this game before, because I will definitely repeat myself a little bit. But what I just said really is why I love this so much. The marriage of the theme with the mechanics. Of course, I'm a big fan of the TV show Battlestar Galactica. It's one of my favorites. But even if you've never seen it before, you can step into this and you feel like you are on board of a ship trying to find Cylons. Virtually every single action that you can take, every game mechanic, feels like it makes sense in the world of this game. You're taking a vote, You're locking someone out, throwing someone out the airlock, that's what it feels like you're doing. You're going out in a ship, you're piloting a ship. It's very immersive in that sense. And again, I personally just love hidden trader mechanics. I love the fact that there are stories this game will tell, and you might get mad at each other, you might start fights, but it, like Resistance, the way that it almost can bleed over into the real world and feel like it's not just a game. I felt emotions because of this game. That's what I treasure. And then sadly, this is another one that is not in print anymore. You cannot find this game, which makes me, I feel bad recommending it. But it is, and I think will always be, honestly, just because of when I played it in my life and what I love about games. I think it will be hard. Like for me, this is my like Star Wars. Like I don't know that any game will ever be able to replace this as my personal number one. Even if maybe a game I might prefer a little for technical reasons, like for emotional reasons, this is really it for me. That being said,
I'm actually really disappointed I'm finishing this off because my number one is the Sherlock Holmes game. I think out of all the story games or mystery solving ones, I like this one the best because when the others are like, read the card and yes, you're all part of the story or you're like, scan the person for like Chronicles of Crime. There's something about this one where like, I felt it was much more rewarding to explore. Like you actually want to find out about other weird things that are happening in the town currently, like where the earring go or something. And it's so fun to sit around the table if you're playing with other people and, you know, like there's a map, you're in charge of the map. I have the book. Oh, what's go to 586 or something, you know. And one of the reasons I finally put it above the other two is because I don't have to think about all those crazy expansions. Yes, it has expansions, but it's just like, I'm buying this box. I'm buying this movie. It comes with 9 cases or whatever. And I've just had so much fun. It's even like if it's late and we're tired, like, you know what? We're gonna have to think mysteries, but we're just gonna set it up and talk about it. I wish for them to take the Sherlock style and pick up where Mythos Tales left off and be like, yeah, we're gonna make our Cthulhu related one. We're gonna make our cyberpunk one. I like their system of using, in essence, I like using the theater of the mind more, I think, and rewarding players that way than instead of having actual pictures of people. I
think that it does in some ways the same things that I said I loved about Battlestar, which is I was saying before when I talked about it, a lot of the game is not on the table. It's your interactions with each other. It's what the players are doing, and you feel like when that game is over, you've done something together. You've had an experience together, and I think that's like, for me, that's the apex of what board games can achieve. So, yeah, why were you disappointed to end on that?
Well, because it was a repeat. That's why I felt bad.
I stole your thunder. So that is it. Those are our lists. Now we can talk a little bit about, including our full top 20,
right.
how we felt about each other.
I am not surprised. I mean, maybe order, but the general trend is something I always see when we talk about games. Jonathan really loves those games that have a social aspect, like the hidden traitor, or you have to deal with bidding and have to like, it's more about dealing with people. I like more of like the move 5 soldiers here. We both love story though, thank God.
Yeah.
We have and that's a very easy place to take a game. Like, even though Arkham's not on your list, it's heavy in story, so I know like he'll probably still have fun.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of intersection. I'll say, I think the games that maybe I was a little surprised, I thought Root would be somewhere on your list.
I thought about it, but like, I guess I like I was thinking like, you know what, I'd rather, if I had to choose between like Cthulhu or Scythe, Rising Sun, I was like,
that's
it made the bottom of it.
Well, I do really like Cthulhu Wars and Rising Sun.
No, and I completely understand where you're coming from over that. I think there isn't a wrong choice in there. Like I said, tier list wise, if we did tiers, Root's in there. It's in that. And I do want to actually do a small honorable mention that didn't make mine, but I want to mention it because unlike some of ours on our list, it's very available. Ticket to Ride almost made mine. Because in terms of entry-level games, I think of all of them that I think of that we started with, it's the one that I feel almost as much joy of hitting the table, especially with all the other weird stuff. You know,
it's currently number 1 in our board game battle list. It's won a lot. I will say one that was close to making my list. I think it's actually, because I went back and looked, I think it's the only game that didn't make my list that was a number 1 in one of our yearly rankings, which is The King's Dilemma. While I definitely stand by that's my favorite game of last year still, I just don't know. We haven't finished the campaign, so I just don't know in a year from now, will those highs still meet the lows?
Now, I wasn't sure if this was going to make your list. I know it didn't make mine, and partially for the same reasons, though there are a couple. It was Tainted Grail. Because it has that seventh continent kind of feel, but the reason why I actually took it off of my list, it was on there. I had so much shuffling. I feel seventh continent, and maybe this has come from me playing lots of Fallout and stuff. I never felt super punished for just wanting to be a walking around.
Yeah.
I feel the Tainted Grail is a bit more tight on that, and you really got to be a bit more careful with your resources and the planning of where the mayors, I'm never
the menhirs,
thank you, have to go. I don't regret it. I want to play it more. I want to play it more with you and find all the different weird things. But that was one game I think which could have been a very big intersection for us that had to get cut. At least in terms of 20. Remember, when we go up to 30 and 40 and 50, that'll be a whole nother story.
I definitely considered Tainted Grail, and I think kind of like you said, I think Seventh Continent feels much more pure in just you're exploring.
Well, it has tainted in the title.
Right. It's pure in its mechanics, whereas Tainted Grail, while I do think that they mesh them very well, there's like a combat aspect to it, and I like the way that they did it a lot, but I more enjoy I'm just finding items, I'm experiencing stuff. Another one that, what I remember my honorable mention was from our first top 10 was Mage Knight. I feel bad not putting it on my list because, I don't think we have played it enough, and I feel
even picked up the expansions too.
I feel even worse because I think when we first did our top 10, the reason it was an honorable mention was because, we haven't played it enough. And in those years, we just haven't played it even more. I really think that if I had more time to devote to that game, it would be very high on my list.
Oh no, I'm almost certain of that. I just was like, you know what? It's not gonna make this list. I feel bad about it.
I'm sure there's more we could discuss in detail. We were surprised maybe what was or wasn't on each other's lists, but for the most part, probably we kind of know what we both like. But no matter where they were placed on our list, these are 20 games that I definitely think people, upwards of 40, 30 something games for what we have overlap on, that you should go out and absolutely look for if they're still available. And you should let us know in the comments where you agree or disagree. Do you have overlap with our list? There's so many. If you look at the board game top 100, we didn't list Twilight Struggle, Twilight Imperium, Pandemic Legacy.
I was actually
Puerto Rico, Le Havre, any of these classics. I'm sure there are a ton of things you want to shout out that we didn't get the chance to mention. Let us know in the comments section right down there, and who knows, maybe we'll try to do these somewhat more frequently, updates to our list. Personally, I feel like I'm very stubborn, so my list doesn't change that much.
Oh no, I am.
My top 4, I think it's probably the same as it was 5 years ago.
I know Sherlock was up for mine. I don't remember if it was my number 1.
In the future, you might be doing your own update, and I'll just be like, it's the same. I still like them.
Well, that's why we always add 10 more to force you to do more work.
Yeah, that's where all my new ones really came in, was the 20 through 11. Again, talk to us and keep up with the channel. If you like listening to us here, of course, you can find us on Patreon. We do weekly podcasts where we talk about board games. We have links to all that in the description and all that kind of stuff later on. Otherwise, thanks guys for watching. We hope you'll continue to join us in the future. My name is Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Get an inspiration token by supporting us on Patreon and liking and subscribing to this channel.
If you support us on Patreon, you'll get access to our audio expansion podcast. It's so good.